video here is over different stances used in Tai Chi. Now, a lot of these stances, because Tai Chi it's not like, it's its own thing, but at the same time, it's part of a bigger thing, right? Which is, depending on how you use these terms, wushu or kung fu, it is a system that's intertwined within those things. But because of Tai Chi's popularity, it's almost seen as it's very much emphasized as its own entity. Even a lot of schools, they'll say Kung Fu and Tai Chi, so they really want to let people know that they have the Tai Chi there that a lot of people are looking for. But what I'm getting at is the stances themselves are very universal. Now the dynamics, how the speed or the approach, it may be different depending on what style of Tai Chi it is. But the overall use of the stances should relatively be the same. So my seafood, Master John Wong, he taught me a routine or form. It's called 12-step sequence. I'm not going to demonstrate the form in this video. I'm more going to talk about the individual postures, weight distribution, the body mechanics of it, my posture, those kind of things. If you're watching this in time, I will probably make another video soon where I'll just do the form like a front, back, and opposite facing, facing this way, that way, just so somebody if wanted to practice it. So that being said, we're going to kind of run through these, and I don't think I'll leave any of them out, maybe. So the first one we're going to look at is, and I'm not going to use the names in Chinese. There's other people that more than likely do that. Well, actually, I know there are. I'm just going to use standard English phrases of what the postures are translated into. So a lot of times it's easier that way for the person anyway. So the first one we're going to look at is it's a high horse. Okay, so my feet are about the width of my shoulders, and my knees are slightly bent, and my weight is evenly distributed. Okay. There are other things like Wu Chi or universal pose or standing like a pose, where you utilize this type of posture. Almost every Tai Chi form, the Yang system for sure, and I do believe also with Wu, and then even with some of the Chin. I think most of them all do this. Now, the Sun system does not. It doesn't utilize this posture, but or stance. But if you look at me from the side, I want to sit. I don't want to lean like this, right? I don't want to lean back. I don't want to feel like I'm leaning forward. I want to blow the legs. I want to have my ankles open, my knees open, and my hip open, and I want to feel like I'm sitting on a high chair, like that. So very neutral position. Most of the forms, they'll start out in this way, he's going to step out, and then he shifts his weight, and then, so that's like the opening and the preparation, right? And other systems utilize that. So anyway, let's move on. So our next piece that we're going to look at is a T stance. So kind of like this, right? Me personally, I feel the weight, most of the weight should be on this back leg, right? And this front leg, I try to stay on the ball of my feet instead of the hole of my foot, so that I can still pivot or step off easily. To me, this stance and the cat stance we'll look at later, there's not a lot of difference. This is bent, this is bent, but I have the majority of the weight on this leg. I can use percentages. I don't know if that's really the best benefit, because you really can't percentage out the weight. You can put more weight on one leg. So if I go back here to this high horse, I can turn back here to this position. To me, this is kind of a starter, or I did something and now I'm coming back to something and then I go to do something else, right? Or I draw myself in and I'm ready to move. Maybe I came from this direction, but now I'm going to step over here. So it's a way to kind of return to a position and start over or recover or draw itself out. The next one we're going to look at is very popular, very common, and I'm going to have this back foot turned, and I'm going to be here. So this is a bow stance. Most of the weight is on this leg. Okay. Now I can do this two ways. I can do it so my knee is slightly bent, and in doing that, I can keep the hip bones in alignment with the upper torso, right? If I straighten out the leg and I still try to do this, now my hip is slightly in a different angle than the spine. So I'm going to bend this lower spine here. So if I want to straighten out the rear leg, and I'm not locking it, okay? It's like I'm straightening out my arm, but this is locking it, right? You follow me? Like I put the tension in it. I don't want that. I would need to be in this forward position like this, right? So I have these points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. If I slightly bend it so that I can keep my hip under me, right? I can do it like this. And to me, both of these are a bow stance. This can also be called mountain climbing stance or forward stance. Right? So if I turn the foot back and I come back here to the center, and then I'm going to step out with this foot, and as I go forward, like I said, it's not locked and it's not closed, right? If I do that, I can keep the hip bones under me and keep my torso in line. The more that I close this knee, I'm going to need to be forward like this so that I don't pinch the lower back. Another thing is, if you look at my lower leg, see, it's straight up and down. Now I can, in theory, push it out to the edge of my toes, and that would be good. But I try my best to step the width that I can and maintain my leg like this so that I don't put any additional pressure into my knee, and it's easier for me to pick it up. If I push out like this and I go to pick up the leg, it's harder for me to, we'll say, do another move or recover from this, right? I'm doing like this and I want to pick it up because I'm trying to escape something. It's harder, right? I have to really shift to pick it up. If I keep it here like this, right, I can pick it up very, very easily, and I can keep it here. I can actually stabilize me with this leg. So anyway, that's my reason for that. And also, too, a lot of people have they've had damage to the meniscus or to the patella or to the other connective tissue around the knee. And we don't want to exacerbate that by pressing into this, right? We want to increase the range of motion to strengthen it, but we don't need to incorporate additional stress to it. The same thing about the lower back. A lot of people have weak lower backs, whether it be the lumbar, and so that kind of tightens up and causes them pain after they've stood up for a few minutes. Or they have just issues with the disc in the back themselves, right? So if I did it this way and did this, all I'm doing is potentially exacerbating a pre-existing condition. If I look at it from a martial art application, just like I was showing about this, if I round my back here and then force comes into me, I could potentially cause more damage to my lower back. But if I keep it this way, then I can transfer the force into the back leg. Or if it's bent and I'm like this and force gets applied into me, I can let my knee and my foot, I can transfer the energy down. See what I'm saying? Well, if I do it like this, the force comes in, really hard to transfer it down. So we looked at the high horse, we looked at this T-stance, we looked at the bow stance. The reverse of this is a crouching stance, or we call it a tiger stance, or a rear stance, right? So Some people have this foot turned in, others it's slightly turned out, others it's this way. With this front foot, some it's this way, some it's this way. As long as, think of it like this, as long as, say, this back leg, I'm not doing the knee this way, or I'm not forcing the knee out to make this happen, but I'm keeping it in a line with the fundamental idea that the knee goes this way, right? So if it was this way and I wanted to sink into it and I maintain this line, nothing wrong with that. But if I turn it this way and I'm forcing the knee out, then potentially I'm going to cause irritation or damage to my knee and potentially also my ankle. And the same thing with this, right? I don't want to be doing this, right? So I try my best to be like this, and then when I go down, I try to keep the knees in a line. Now, a lot of times when you go down, you're going to push the butt out. So when you go down, feel like you're pushing your bladder forward. So I keep like this, right? So I can keep me more upright and straight. Whether I do it this way, right? And I keep this in line, and I try to push this out. So there's only a couple of moves in. Most of the people who are going to watch this, they're probably going to watch it because either they're doing swatch out with me, or they're doing Tai Chi with me, more than likely. The swatch out is going to use really large, long stances, big frame, right, for the throws. With the Tai Chi, maybe with snake hips in the grass, you might go really deep to do this move. If you were doing a really large frame, say you're doing a brush knee, you might use a large frame when you're doing that, when you're doing your bow stance, right? Say when I step through, and I may be really deep, but more than likely I'm not going to go way down here, right? Some of the other systems like Jiao Bao Tai Chi, they go really low. Chen does too, but I think Jiao Bao even goes lower. I mean, to the point where they will push the body to touch the floor almost in this position. I guess if everything was mechanically in line and you started that at an age where you had much more mobility and strength, you might could maintain that into let's say into our senior years, right? But if you're coming to Tai Chi in your 50s or your 60s or your 70s, it'd be really difficult to do that. So the width or the length that we want to shoot for is that we want this leg a little before parallel, right? You can come all the way down like this, if I want, and push me down, and that'll give a good stretch to the hands and stuff like that. But most of the stuff that you're going to do in Yang or Wu is not going to make you get way down on the ground. Even in Master Chong's Tai Chi that I share with people also, when he does his single whip, he doesn't come down here, right? Excuse me, it's snake hips in the grass. But literally, it comes to his hip and he pushes out. Why? Because the application that he's seeing the movement as, this hand is holding someone's arm, this arm is going through, and you're lifting the person over. Okay? So there's no reason to go all the way down here to the person's ankle and then try to lift them up, right? You can just come to here and push them up. So again, application versus aesthetics, right? So again, we had the high horse, T, bow stance, crouching stance or tiger stance, and now let's look at it from the bow stance again, right? So I'm here, and we're going to do this is 7 stars or sit back stance. I think sit back makes a lot more sense. The 7 stars is the Big Dipper and all of that, and I can understand the way the foot looks when it's done, but the sitting back makes sense to people, like, I'm going to sit on something. So say I'm in this stance, and a lot of people, when they do this, right? So they almost lock this, they curl the foot like that, and it kind of jams the hip like this and pushes the butt out. So I personally don't do it that way. If I'm in this position and I want to do this sit back position, I bend this knee, and if this is my heel, my foot is going to rise up. Watch, I bend this. See? I keep the bend in my ankle. I don't lock the knee, right? And then look, if I straighten this back out, it goes right back down. I didn't really put a lot of force into the knee joint. Why do I do that? Because like sweeping action, like throws, like forward kicking, or like other things that we do in like in Tai Chi, playing the people, right? But in the Squat I have rubbing and biting and tie and forward kicking. So I'm utilizing this move a lot. And I really like that type of action to destabilize the person and put them down. And if I do it like this and I lock the leg and I miss something or what have you, if the person kicked me here, potentially damage my ankle really bad or my knee, right? Or the pressure goes here. So I want to maintain this. And the same thing, even if you were doing stuff in the Tai Chi, look, I'm going to do it like this. It's like I'm sitting on a stool, and then I push it out. I don't do this. And when people do this with their knees, they're not using the power of the legs. They're not using the core. They're just rocking back and forth. It doesn't help anything. This way, I'm loading myself, and then I drive with the muscles. And I'm not locking knee joints. I do it on the other side, right? From a bow stance. See? Versus this. See? My weight, there's always something about relaxing and sinking away in Tai Chi. Well, I need to do that in Squat too. Right? I need to do that in any kind of martial art. You need to do that in baseball. You want to hit that ball hard, you're going to drive that weight down from the legs and hit that bat, right? Hit the ball with that. Same thing with this. I want to feel the weight down here, not up here, right? Okay. So, resting stance, right? And then our next one, golden rooster stance on one leg. Right? So I'm going to pull the leg up. And I said pull the leg up, I didn't say pull the foot up. And the reason why is because when people pull up the foot, it's like the muscles will start to contract, and they'll never get the full range of motion, in my personal opinion. So I think, in a good way, you can try it for yourself. You think that you're lifting from this point, right above your patella, right? Pushing this up. Good? Or you feel like there's a string like you're a marionette, and it's pulling the leg up. Good? Pulling the leg up. But again, don't make it about the foot, make it about the knee, and you'll get it so much higher. How high do we want to get this? If you're 30 and your balance is very poor, and you sit in a chair all day long for your job, you may not have the strength to bring it up, right? Same thing if you're 65. So anything is good, right? I can bring it to here. It's not going to disrupt the thing. This is my approach to Tai Chi is about functional fitness, improving the baseline of the person,
And we use that through progressive training, right? So if I can do it here, and I'm diligent about it, I may be able to do this in a month, right? Or I may be able to bring it all the way up here in 2 months. But you know what? It's not important. What's important is that I'm trying to either maintain where I'm at, or I'm gradually trying to make improvements. Okay? So again, here, and I want to keep my body upright. Some people will lean, or they will lean forward. Those are the most difficult one that I see with people. But just sit on your leg, right? You keep this leg bent. Don't lock it out. It makes it even harder, right? Keep it bent so that the muscles can stabilize the body. Okay. This next move, so we had this as a T stance. First thing to me, they're relatively the same thing. And a cat stance. So cat, cat, cat. I can put it in any of those positions and it'd still be a cat stance. In my mind. So, but we'll say that the majority of the weight's here. 90% of you won't use an elbow. And the further this leg goes out, the more I'm going to bend on this one. Just don't bend the knee this way or this way. Keep it in line with the toes. Like this, right? I want to be able to pick it up and put it down quickly. Right? A lot of movements will draw the foot up, right? Draw the foot up and send it back out. Something like that, right? So when you do it though, don't lean like this, right? If you only have the leg strength and the stability to have it here, fine. If you can bend this more and put it out further, and you still keep your posture and everything, great. Now, some will do this too. They'll be here and they'll have the foot out. And if you look at my weight, right, my weight's back here, but they'll do this. And they'll transfer a big portion of the weight into this leg. Don't do that to yourself, okay? Let this leg keep the weight. To strengthen the muscles in this leg, okay? Do it like this. Don't do this. You can hear it. And if it was for application purposes, this would not be a good idea. It'd be easy to get your foot swept, right? I want to, nothing against it. You pick it up quickly or change it, go somewhere else. Okay. This next move is, depending on how you look at it, it can be 3 different stances, depending on what I'm trying to do with it. So, a resting stance, a marching stance, or a steaming stance. Now, a marching stance, I'm usually going to be going this way, right? My thinking is that way. If I do it as a steaming stance, I'm usually looking the opposite direction. Does that make sense? I'm like this, right? If it was marching, it would be like this. Okay. Steaming, whatever I'm moving toward is behind me, and marching is in front of me. And resting, it can be used as a middle line transition move, or look. See? I can sink in the middle with it. My legs are like this. And you can do it this way as an exercise, like when I was talking about and some of my other videos about strengthening the legs with the resting stance or with air squats. You can do this way with a resting stance, right? Or you can do it this way from a post stance, and this way to strengthen it,